We all know that the community content in Disney Infinity is a mixed bag. Some toy boxes are inspired works of art, begging for players to find them, while others, not so much. This show is about jumping in the deep end, playing 4 random toy boxes in hopes of finding a diamond in the rough. But rest assured, I'm not afraid to touch on why some creations may not have lived up to their potential. At the end of each episode, I'll rank the toy boxes and let you know which ones I recommend. I'm Javi Rodriguez from GameOverNation.com, and this is the best of 4. To find our 4 random toy boxes, I had the community content filtered by newest, and then I picked the first few that I saw. Of course, since the Speedway challenge was going on, almost every level was a racetrack, but that's fine. Let's check them out. First up is Happy Birthday JV, wishing John Vignacchi a happy birthday and a successful new year, to infinity and beyond. Oh, that's nice. But how is the toy box? Watching it load, I'll say that it looks pretty complex. Once the toy box begins, you are shown several messages to our boy Johnny V, while listening to some custom-made music. I guess that's what all this was for. All things considered, it's not a bad tune. It's a little Mario Painty, but that's to be expected. After you've read through all the happy birthday wishes, it's finally time to walk around, and then it quickly dawns on you that there's not really much to do. I mean, if you press this button, the camera whips over to this weird Captain EO, EC, E-something logo in the sky. I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea what that is. On a side note, am I the only one who hates this prompt? I find it so intrusive, especially since it's basically in the center of the frame. To make it worse, it only shows up when someone activates a custom camera angle, which is usually when you've triggered a cutscene or you're trying to get the player to focus on something important. That's not the time to cover the middle of the frame with a tutorial. Look, it's important that people know how to get out of a custom camera angle, especially if it gets stuck somewhere unplayable. But there's gotta be a better way. In fact, here, I'll do it for you. The ultimate irony is that, as I'm complaining about this prompt, this toy box is a perfect example of why it exists. For some reason, the camera never reverts back from staring at this logo. So you're stuck looking at it for all eternity until you unlock the camera. Once you've regained control of your character, there's nothing left to do but wander around and tinker with what's behind the scenes, unless you really feel like having a go with Darkwing Duck's Ratcatcher. Now, this is a general criticism, not necessarily about this toy box, but all toy boxes out there. I wish that more levels made sure that they had a clear ending, either with some text that clearly implies it's over, or by actually taking you out of it back to the main menu. Far too many toy boxes leave you hanging until you awkwardly realize that that's really it. I don't know if I'm the only person who feels this way, since I've never seen anybody else talk about it. However, in the case of this particular toy box, it was clearly never meant to be more than just a happy birthday wish for John Vignacchi, and I can't really complain about that. Hell, the creator put together their own song for it, and that alone is pretty impressive. But to be honest, if this toy box has taught me anything, it's that the San Francisco Skybox is awesome. Next up, Syndrome Speedway Challenge. Syndrome is back, and this time he's used the Hero Destroyer to make 4 racetracks to challenge you. Can you master all 4 racetracks and save Mighty Jitus? 4 tracks in one toy box? Let's hop in. Oh wow, alright. I like the design. It's actually a pretty faithful recreation of Syndrome's place in The Incredibles. That's really cool. He tells you that he's holding the level's creator hostage, and that he has created 4 racetracks to challenge you. To get started, all you've got to do is walk through this door. Immediately, you can see that they have used some Tatooine playset pieces, and everything looks pretty solid. I hopped into one of the cars, started the race, and crashed immediately. At least I wasn't the only one. Once I was back on course, it slowly dawned on me that this track dynamically changes skyboxes to give each section of the track its own theme. From Sandy Tatooine, the Death Star, Hoth, the Forest of Endor, and finally you transition into Jakku from The Force Awakens, crashed Star Destroyer, and everything. This track is designed in a way that makes most of these transitions seamless. You're racing along and before you know it, you're in a completely different environment. It's a really nice effect. If there's one thing that Syndrome Speedway Challenge has going for it, it's the level design. Once you've completed the race, you expect to move on to the second of Syndrome's 4 racetracks, but nothing happens. I searched all over the level and I couldn't figure out how to progress. The door on the left just brings you back to where you entered. The only explanation I can think of is that this was all 4 racetracks spliced into one. And that's fine if you count Tatooine and Jakku as one location, but again, this would be clear if the toy box would let me know that it's officially over, and that I've completed it. Otherwise, it's entirely possible that I've missed out on 3/4 of the intended tracks, and given the high quality of this one, that would be a real shame. The third toy box today is called Indy's Temple Dash. Race through the ancient temple of the Forbidden Eye and race through all the perils and thrills that lurks inside. One word of advice, don't look into the eyes of Mara. Ah, neat, this is a recreation of the Indiana Jones ride from Disneyland. Since there's not an Indiana Jones figure, I'll settle for the next best thing. The Lone Ranger! Right from the get-go, you hop into a Jeep. Once you've rounded the first corner, there's a set of 3 doors, just like the real ride. I've got to commend the creator for putting so much work into recreating each detail of this classic ride. It's just a lot of fun to figure out what each part of the track was supposed to be. More importantly, it's an entirely capable race course with plenty of opportunities to drift through corridors and dodge obstacles. Just don't try to go where it doesn't want you to. The creator took the time to custom build each set piece from the ride, and I love that. Even if there are a few bland parts of the track that could use a few decorations or lighting effects, it's great. Yeah, that's pretty much all there is to this toy box. All things considered, it's a very cool level. And finally, our last toy box of the show, DeathStar RACE. You like Star Wars? You like the Empire? You like racing? Then you're going to love the Star Wars Death Star Speedway! The track is using the Toy Story road skin. I'm a fan of that. It's very spacey. But I've got to say, after the last 2 tracks put all that hard work into decorating their levels, this is pretty bare bones. It's basically just a road with a small platform to select your vehicle. I'm definitely not picking a pod racer. Remember, those are death traps. Motorcycle it is. The countdown starts, and off we go. You know, it's funny. Due to the simplicity of this track's design, your focus is entirely on driving smoothly along the road. And with that in mind, it dawns on me how far the handling has come in Disney Infinity. Sumo Digital, the team behind Sonic and Sega All-Star Racing, took the half-baked, jerky controls of previous titles and tweaked everything for the release of their Toy Box Speedway. You take what they've done for granted until you really look back and think about how hard it was to stay on the track in 1.0 and 2.0. That said, there isn't much to talk about in DeathStar RACE, but for whatever reason, I really do enjoy driving on this track. The road bends and swirls in a satisfying fashion that promotes clean drifting around corners and pulling off flips and spins off of every bump to gain boost power. After completing the race, there's nothing left to do but accept your fate. Hop into a pod racer, and
try spinning, that's a good trick. Now this is pod racing.
Here we go, the final results for our first ever best of 4. I've got to give first place to Syndrome Speedway Challenge. Whether I actually got to play through everything it had to offer or not, the fact that what I did play was of such incredibly high quality was enough to make it rise above the competition. I was extremely impressed with this toy box. Indy's Temple Dash comes in second, but only because it had a few too many moments of empty generic space. Trust me, if it weren't for the Syndrome level, this would have probably come in ahead of most toy boxes out there. Coming in third is Happy Birthday JV. Like I said earlier, this toy box doesn't give you much to do as a player, but it's an incredibly sweet gesture, and the work that went into composing a song in-game can't be overlooked. Finally, in fourth place, we have DeathStar RACE! In a world of community content with minimal quality control, even the simplest racetrack should be commended when they actually work as intended. And I would argue that if you put aside the fact that this level didn't provide much in the way of strong decorations or impressive effects, it did deliver where it mattered with a really fun racetrack to drive around. With that, we've wrapped up the first episode of Best of 4. I've been your host, Javi Rodriguez. If you like this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you really like the video and can't get enough of this voice, you can follow this annotation to my channel where I talk Disney Infinity and many other things. Until next time, I'm out.